Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome to the new office. If you saw my program releases last weekend, you saw the new space already, but if not, welcome to my new office space. Super excited, super cool. I live on the second story now of a two-story building. Work on the second story now of a two-story building. But without further ado, let's hop straight into why everyone has been getting Topaz AI wrong. And I'm over-exaggerating a little bit, but I'm also not. Topaz AI is an amazing program. So let me just tell you a little bit of the backstory. I kind of didn't believe that it would be able to do as well as it does, but I decided to just go for it about 3 weeks ago, and I was like, you know what the heck, let's just download them all, see what they do, see if they hold up to the standard. And I was honestly really blown away by how good these programs are. It is just unreal. So I hear a lot about Topaz Denoise AI as a wildlife photographer. I hear a lot about Gigapixel, some about Sharpen, stuff like that. But I want to tell you guys where maybe they're being misused sometimes and finding my kind of hacks that I've used to be able to use them efficiently and use them well. And so we're going to be working on my computer right over here, and we're going to be talking about 3 different programs: Sharpen, Denoise, and Gigapixel. Denoise is one of the biggest, most useful features of the Topaz AI system. However, for some reason, Denoise AI doesn't do the best job of denoising, I found. So that's kind of what I want to give you guys a hack into today. Honestly, about 90% of the scenarios, I found a better solution with Sharpen AI. So let's be pulling that up. I'm gonna start out with that. So we're gonna go to Sharpen AI, and I'm gonna pull up this photo for you guys. So this is a photo of a tree swallow, as you can see there, that I captured in flight. This is a highly zoomed in photo. So one of the cool things that we're gonna see about it as well is we're gonna see what Gigapixel does as well. So you can see here we started and I threw this in the program. So one of the biggest challenges I've had with Sharpen AI is making sure that all the aspects of the image, except for the subject, wind up getting blurred out or denoised in this case. And you can see that when I have it on this out of focus, very blurry setting, I've found that does the best job of it. Occasionally I'll use the motion blur, very noisy or very blurry, but out of focus, very blurry seems to do the best trick. However, the problem is this subject was in focus. It was tack sharp, super in focus. So now what the sharpening is doing is it's overcorrecting to the point of where you can see chromatic aberration in this image. I don't know if you can tell as I kind of zoom in maybe to this area or something, but it actually enhances the sharpness so much that it does it incorrectly. It looks a little bit too bad now. So one of the solutions that I found to this is by taking this image, because it has a beautiful background. Let's just show you for a second the Sharpen AI, how it denoises this photo. So I'm gonna go before, right? You see all that grain in it, and then it just takes it out. Just magically takes it out, right? When you use Sharpen AI. But the problem is, again, that over sharpening. So what I found the solution to be was I threw it into Gigapixel, and Gigapixel seemed to be able to enhance the resolution enough more to where when it after that, where it sharpened it, it didn't over sharpen it in a lot of these areas. So you can see here, when I go to the Gigapixel enhancement, I'm just gonna do a 2x scale, nothing crazy, and it'll enhance the resolution by 2 times. So we'll save that image first of all. So now that we have this, this enhanced Gigapixel image, you'll see the difference when I upload this in here. And now we're going to see the difference when we now enhance this already megapixel wise enhanced photo, because the problem was before when the megapixels were so I guess not dense or so light that we were getting too much over sharpening, and I was standing out a lot because it was trying to correct it. But you can see now, since we've enhanced it, it just has a beautiful, still blurry background, gets rid of all the noise, and then on the bird, it's still nice and sharp, and we don't see that chromatic aberration that I was talking about before. Now moving into the next example, what I kind of want to show is the difference between why I use Sharpen AI as opposed to Denoise AI, even when I'm denoising. And so let's pull this up. So the image I want to use as an example is going to be this red-winged blackbird. Neither of these images have a low resolution. These are still pretty high megapixel resolution, got a really good resolution here. So we don't really need to use Gigapixel in this aspect. But you'll notice the difference in the noise. These were both shot at very high ISOs, I believe 6,400 if I remember correctly. And so there's a little bit of noise naturally in the image. But when Denoise tries to denoise it, it just gets a little bit too creamy. It gets a little bit too clumpy is maybe the right word for it. So first of all with the bird, and you'll see as I kind of zoom in on it, the bird kind of just looks a little bit meshed together, right? Like he was almost painted in a pastel watercolor like scenario. And the sky gets kind of these weird, kind of like, almost like it was a poor sensor or a very poor denoising clumps all throughout the sky, because there's just too much noise in there. So as it's trying to clump it together against a relatively smooth and solid color gradient, it just clumps together and it kind of just looks ugly. And I personally do not like the look of this at all. Like, I would rather take the noise that's offered in this photo than throw it into this denoise and get this kind of effect. It just doesn't look good to me. But the cool thing is, you'll notice when we go into Sharpen AI, you can see that it retains that sharpness in the bird, which is just beautiful, gorgeous, stunning. And the sky does not get that same type of clumpy, denoised effect that we got in the denoise program. So Sharpen AI in this scenario was 10 times better to me than the denoise program. So it's kind of interesting seeing that even though the denoiser was made to do denoising, it doesn't seem to do it as well in a lot of scenarios. And I've actually found in my experience that 80 to 90% of scenarios, the Sharpen AI, if I do the out of focus, it specifically has to be the out of focus very blurry, or the motion blur very blurry, very noisy. Depending on the scenarios, those three seem to do the trick in Sharpen AI so well, as opposed to denoise always seems to do some weird pastel looking effect in most of my images. However, that's not it, because there are some images in which the denoise does a better job, and let me pull those up right now and show you. All right, you guys, and I realized this whole time I did not even drop my mic closer down like it should have been, so the audio is probably a little bit sucky in this, but apologize. Anyways, back to the photos. So we're gonna throw the sage sparrow photo into both the denoise and the sharpen, and that way you guys can kind of see the difference there. This photo was cropped in quite a bit, so I took the kind of the wider version of this photo and cropped it in quite a bit so that you guys can really tell the details and the effect that it can have when you crop in this much. This image, you know, was shot at 48 megapixels, so it's like an 8,000 by 5,000 resolution, something like that. Cropped it all the way down to like 2,500 by 1,500 or somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact numbers, but point being that we're gonna kind of see the difference, and then we're gonna see when we enhance it even in Gigapixel AI after the effect is done. So let's zoom in a little bit on this. Zoom to fit, zoom to fit. And in this scenario, you can see, so Sharpen AI, when I use Sharpen AI, it gets a little bit too much of that sharpness, chromatic aberration again in the bird, right? That I kind of don't like, I'm not a huge fan of. And because of kind of the grass that's sticking up here, it did a little bit to those things as well, and I didn't really like that about this image. So when I threw it into Denoise AI in this scenario, it did not sharpen any of that stuff, still kept a good amount of detail on all these feathers on the birds, however. And because the background was already kind of maybe clumpy, for lack of a better term, the denoiser, even though it was noisy to a certain extent, the denoiser didn't really exaggerate that enough to where it really was noticeable at all. And it did a better job in the foreground than the Sharpen AI. See how the Sharpen AI kind of left some of the sharpness down here because it might have gotten confused that it was wanting to sharpen this grass versus the denoise did not. So in this scenario, the denoise actually did a better job. And so this is one of those 10-20% scenarios where the denoise definitely outperformed the Sharpen AI in terms of blurring the background, getting that good denoise. To show you the before and afters, this is the before, that's the after. So even the denoise helped make it appear as if it was a more standing out subject, more sharp subject. Sharpen, before and after. So in this scenario, definitely like the denoise more. And now just for good measure, we're gonna throw the denoised photo into Gigapixel to enhance the resolution. That way you guys can kind of see the effect that it has, right? It's just bringing in more pixels. And Gigapixel honestly does a really great job of this. I found in Gigapixel that depending on the scenario, different results can be better than others. So sometimes using the standard AI model is better. If you want a little bit sharper of an image, it also seems to help increase the sharpness a little bit. Low resolution, if it truly is a resolution image, the low resolution seems to do a good job without creating too many artifacts or anything like that. So standard I've found works the best when it's already a relatively good resolution. Maybe it's closer to like 12 megapixels when you use it in Gigapixel AI or something like that. Standard seems to work the best. But if it's truly a low resolution image and maybe it's closer to like 8 megapixels or 6 megapixels at the time that you're trying to enhance this, going with low resolution seems to really pay off and have very little risk involved. Ultimately, what I found is it really comes down to just the scenario, to be honest. It's really helpful to have Sharpen, Denoise, and Gigapixel, all three. But if you're on a budget, just try not to spend as much because they are expensive programs. They're 80 bucks a piece. I would highly recommend getting Sharpen AI first if that's the only $80 you have. Sharpen AI is a game changer for most of my photos. It was honestly mind-blowing seeing it work for the first time. Sharpen AI is just ridiculously good. So Sharpen AI is definitely my first pick if you have to pick one. My second pick is very difficult. I think if you have a camera with a lower resolution that naturally you're gonna get a lot of low resolution images if you crop it all, I would go for the Gigapixel AI next. However, if you have a really high resolution camera, often the Gigapixel is not gonna be as helpful because you have the pixels there. It's more about getting the image denoise or getting it a little bit more sharp or a little bit more blurred in the background, stuff like that. And so Gigapixel is probably my second choice for low resolution cameras, not my second choice for high resolution cameras, Denoise being the other one. Denoise, like I said, is really a niche scenario, however you say that, scenario in the times that you'll be using it. So not necessarily my favorite program, but if you have the money to spend on all three, there are scenarios in which all of them will be useful. Really, these are mind-blowing programs, and yeah, I definitely recommend this. If you guys are interested in purchasing these programs, make sure to check out my link below. It's my affiliate link. Helps support me a little bit without costing you guys an extra penny. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. If it was, make sure you subscribe below. Helps me out a lot as a channel. Gives you guys a lot of good content that you're gonna be able to rely on, learn from throughout the years. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.